So hello to everyone and thank you for joining our webinar today. The discussion will be a bit more targeted. We will have the presentation of Vasilios Kalogiru from EUSPA, and then we will respond to the questions from the audience regarding the call on the Horizon pre-commercial. It's the Horizon pre-commercial procurement call, strategic autonomy in developing, deploying and using global space-based infrastructure services and applications and data. Just to remind you, Nereus, in collaboration with EUSPA, organized a webinar on that call a month ago almost. The call of that webinar was to inform the regional stakeholder how to benefit and better access EUSPA'S funding opportunities. Maybe before I continue, please remember to mute your microphone so we avoid interruption. And at that time, Mr. Kalogiru elaborated on the demand-driven innovation by public authorities aiming at development and the adoption of Galileo and Copernicus downstream applications, which of course meet the needs of the European regions. So it was a very rich webinar, and the objective of the webinar today actually is to follow up on the previous webinar, is to point out the main elements of the former session, and to give you the opportunity to ask questions in case you're interested to apply to this call. We have Vasilis here to help us with this part. And just before I give the floor to Vasilis, I would like to remind to the participants, in case you haven't joined the previous webinar, that Nereus is the network of European regions using space technologies. We are a network of 23 European regions, and our mission is to promote the use of space data and applications towards the regional stakeholder. More information you can find in the presentation of our last webinar. So I will just very quickly give the floor to Vasilis to highlight the main elements of the call and his presentation. And then we will come back to you for your questions. Please, Vasilis.
Thank you very much, Margarita. Good morning also from my side. I hope you can hear me. My name is Vasilis Kalogiru. I'm a Space Downstream Research and Innovation Officer at the EU Agency for the Space Program, EUSPA. And let me share my slides. So as Margarita was saying, this is a follow-up. So I don't know how many of the participants already participated in the very first webinar we organized. So some of the material it's the same of the first webinar, but I will try to make it a little bit more quicker rather than extending too much. I'm quite keen to hear your questions. First, I wanted to highlight all this long title that Margarita before read is the call. The call for us is the container, no? It brings the strategic, let's say, that's why it's long. It brings the strategic concept of the call. Inside the call, we have the topics, and the topics are actually more interesting because this is where the thematic context comes in. So inside the call, which is the second call for us in EUSPA, there are various topics, 6 topics specifically, and one of these topics, one of these thematic areas is what we see before here, the title, Public Sector as Galileo and/or Copernicus User. So, okay, this is a bit of an introductory of who we are as an agency. We were established in 2021 with a regulation that established also the EUSPA'S program. You see here the different components, and as you noticed already, the topic focuses on Galileo and Copernicus, 2 of the components. I'm not going to go through explaining the whole components and structure. I work in the market downstream and innovation. This is let's say, the three-pillar approach that we have in integrated market and user-driven approach that we use. So we want to establish market and user knowledge first, and we do that through extended market intelligence, I would say, market and also technology intelligence. So we have the market report. We discuss with users. We have what we call the user consultation platform, which we did last year in October, and we work on the demand support. We have the segmentation of the market in 17 different segments. We have some, extended key accounts with main players of the value chain, and the offer creation, which is why I'm here with you today, is we have various tools to work in creating made in Europe applications, products and services. So in this framework, we do our Horizon Europe activities in the offer creation specifically. So I talked before that the call is the container and the topics are the thematic elements, and you see here the 6 topics. You see the whole investment for us in this second call is approximately 50 million euros, 48.1. And you will see the different thematics, or the different topics. I will focus, of course, as I said, in the public sector as Galileo and or Copernicus user. We have an indicative budget there of 5.2 million, and the type of action, as correctly pointed out by Margarita, is pre-commercial procurement. And you see on the right what this means. These are activities that aim to help a buyers group, and this is the public actors. They will act as a buyers group to strengthen the public procurement of research, development, validation, and possibly the first deployment of new solutions. This is how this instrument, the PCP, is used. This call has been open for some time, as you can see, because we are approaching the deadline. It's the 2nd of March, but still there is, I believe, time for interested consortia to organize a proposal and be efficient and be successful. That's why actually we have this follow-up. I talked in the very first webinar about the things that we hear from public entities. These are basically the problems that we want to tackle: the lack of time for R&D. Most of the times they are risk-averse entity, public actors. So they want solutions that work, and most of the times they have specific solutions, and they keep using them without looking outside, without looking more innovative solutions, and they want to procure things that work and they can trust. So of course there is also the element of trust there, that maybe some of these innovative solutions are not, they believe, very trustable, but they never checked. The PCP gives actually this opportunity to them to validate them in their operational environment. So I answered the question then why we do pre-commercial procurement, because this way the public actors can be funded to procure R&D for the purposes with the risk, the development. So this is the incentive here for them as well. They have the opportunity in the framework of the project to validate the solution and check if they are fit for purpose for them. And they can get also, and this is a very important point in regards to PR, they can get some favorable conditions. Okay, this is a visual that how we regard that PCP is a win-win situation for the procurers, let's say the public actors, but also it connects to the let's say politicians, because they can modernize the public services, specifically when we talk about regions. It's a way for them to implement political priorities. They can improve the innovation climate in the region or the city, and they can attract foreign investment. So it's a good instrument also if used, of course, effectively. And on the supplier side, of course, the suppliers, the ones that will be afterwards involved in the project, they can have faster company growth, they can shorten the time to the markets, they can use economies of scale because they already used with a public actor, they already work with a public actor in the framework of the project. Very, very briefly, I don't know if the participants are aware of what is the instrument, so I wanted to include again one slide on explaining the instrument. So basically, the container that you see here is the whole PCP, and it's 2 basic phases: the so-called preparation phase, which usually takes approximately 1 year, and the execution phase. The preparation phase is where all the public entities, the lead procurer, the buyers group will come together. They can be, for example, cities, they can be regions, maybe with some institutions that are more, they can help them in certain aspects on the administrative, for example, aspects. This can be also allowed in the framework of the PCP. So in the preparation phase, there will be this organization that they will put together all their requirements, and they will issue a the common tender specifications. There will be basically an invitation to tender. But before doing that, they will consult the market based on these requirements. They will listen to where the market is compared to their solution, so they can adjust, let's say, their expectations, and then they will issue their invitation to tender. So they will tender all together. But for the legal point of view, there will be in this tender one lead procurer who will publish the ITT on behalf, of course, of the whole buyers group. And then we have the execution phase. So basically, there will be an evaluation because this invitation to tender will be issued to the industry after, of course, the consultation of the market. And once issued, there will be a selection. Of course, there will be some companies awarded. Here, this example shows, for example, 4 suppliers that they will proceed in the phase 1, usually solution design. And what you see here are iterative phases. So we have like first phase solution design, second phase there will be a prototype development, and the ones that are selected afterwards, they have the opportunity to test the solution in an operational environment. So basically iterations, and at the end of each iteration, you have less supplier continuing in the phase. So this is the general structure. It doesn't mean that there is no flexibility. Sometimes there are PCPs, for example, that have only 2 phases. This is also possible as well, but usually this is the structure that we have. And also there might be cases, for example, that not many suppliers are interested. So I would say this is very important to inform about, not only the buyers, but also the industry, that it is important in order the instrument to have this iterative aspect of, we test and we select and we continue, that we have enough number of suppliers. And I would say the minimum should be at least 2 or 3 suppliers in the phase 1, so that we can continue until the phase 3. What you see in the grayed out on the right is another instrument which I would say is sometimes plugged to the PCP, which is the public procurement of innovative solutions. But I'm focusing here on the PCP. What we cover in the PCP action, you see that the budget, when we give the project to a buyers group, to a consortium, there are 2 basic elements inside the budget. There is the budget that covers their costs for what they do, and what they do is the green part. As I said before, they do an open market consultation, they prepare the tender documents, and they go through all the administrative process. And then in the execution phase, they will validate, test the solution, they will issue evaluation reports. How did they evaluate it, the industry players? So there will be dissemination activities. All this is covered in the green part that you see. And there is another big, and has to be at least 50% of the budget, which is the procurement itself. Because let's say you have a 2.5 million project. I give just indicative example. 50% of this budget, at least 50% of this budget, has to be procurement, what you will provide out and tender to the industry. That's to make it clear, and the rest can cover your cost. So now from finishing as regards the PCP as an action, I go to the specific topic, which I presented before as a title, Public Sector as Galileo and Copernicus User. So we're talking about demand-driven innovation. We want public authorities, not only regions. This is, I have to highlight it. It regards generally public stakeholders and players. So we aim to develop and reinforce the adoption of Galileo Copernicus downstream applications. That means various needs. Some examples are given in the description of the topic, and I provide them here. Examples of monitoring of infrastructure, crisis, emergency management, mobility services, etc., etc. It's not PCP is not just buying a solution. I have to highlight also this thing. There needs to be tailoring. There needs to be development. This is not per se procurement. The solution is ready. I buy it. That's why it's called pre-commercial, actually, procurement. So some development and tailoring to the specific needs that the public actor might have, that the firefighter, for example, might have, but also a city might have, a region might have in the specific in the webinar, and connecting to the participants' needs. So we have, I don't know why this slide doesn't show up rightly. So it's potential PCP ideas for European regions. I give, again, some examples so that trigger your imagination. So there might be systems, for example, that improve waste management services utilizing EUSPA'S data. And we talk about synergistic Galileo and Copernicus solution. Copernicus on one side observing the disposal sites, Galileo providing asset management system. So safeguarding communities from geohazards and extreme weather events. This is also very, very important for cities and regions. Similar example on assisting maybe cities to better manage their wildland urban interfaces, so reducing the risks for wildfires. Managing better the critical infrastructures of regions. Various example critical infrastructure can be, for example, a dam management, or assisting the management of a dam with this, assisting electricity or water management systems. I provide below also some examples. Mobility for the regions, like for example, regions that are remote, like islands or mountainous regions. Or systems that support local communities for more efficient irrigation management systems, coastal protections. The list goes on, and I provide as a reference an EUROPEAN document, the user stories series, good publications that they made on the Copernicus for regions. You can get also some ideas from this publication. Some questions slide before. Maybe you ask some questions. I try to answer in advance. I get usually this question: how many public entities have to be involved in the PCP? The answer is there. So usually we want minimum of 3 independent legal entities from 3 different member states or associated countries, minimum 2 of which are public procurers. So you can have a small consortium when there are, for example, 3 minimum players. 2 of them are cities or regions, not from the same country, from different countries, and 1 independent legal entity, which can be, I would say, a facilitator entity, which will help the regions in the implementation of the whole PCP to administer it better and implement it. I'm a public research institution that has connections with public end users that can act as buyers. Can I participate? I think I answered already this question. Say yes, that not only we want to establish a buyers group, but at the same time, there might be entities like coming from academia that can support you, that can provide technical legal assistance. And of course, I highlight here on the conditions that they are not potential suppliers. So of course, we cannot have an entity being involved in the preparation of an ITT and then bidding for the ITT. This is a conflict of interest. What activities are expected in the framework of the PCP? I give you some ideas. So as I said, there are 2 stages. The preparation stage usually, again, takes 1 year, because you will need, to perform the activities and issue an ITT. Sometimes it could take even a bit more. So you have to prepare 1 joint ITT, I think this is a mistake, with other public entities. So you can organize a market consultation, you verify market readiness with your needs, and then you publish. And in the execution stage, procurement of the solution, validation of the performance, assessment, publication of the outcomes, and so on and so forth. These are the activities that are more or less expected So which are the actors and which are their roles? So you have the beneficiaries and the third parties. You have what I called the buyers group before, minimum 2 public procurers from 2 different member states or associated countries. So these are representing the demand side, the ones that want to procure this solution. Inside this buyers group, there is one lead procurer, which is explaining it's the procurer appointed by the buyers group to lead the whole process. And then we can have subcontractors, successful tenders, which are basically in the case for the case of the project are the tenders which participate, the industry. And this is important also that they do not enter the grant agreement with the Commission or with the EUSPA. They are acting as a subcontractor of the project. Basically, the Commission pays and EUSPA pays the project, the coordinator, and the coordinator then subcontracts. That's why it says they are not paid directly by the Commission and by EUSPA. One example of a project which I have to say at the end had various issues with respect to participation from the industry side is the GNSS. It is still ongoing. It's maybe not a good example to show, but at least I wanted to show the triangle of the buyers group. So you have 3 different public entities participation. You have one lead procurer, which is the French Ministry of Interior, 2 other publicly owned entities from other 2 member states, and they performed already some activities. Unfortunately, there was no interest from the time the invitation to tender came out. There was no strong interest from the industry. So what I showed before, the iterations are not possible to be done if there is not enough suppliers. So that's why it's important, and this I show it also as an example to highlight, it's important the transparency, publication, and dissemination of this activity. It's not like regions, cities come together and they build an ITT. They need really to disseminate it at European level. We can assist, of course, as EUSPA, also communicating and disseminating this tender. But it is important that we have participation. That's why it's also quite crucial to have this alignment with where the market is. If we start asking to the market things that they're not still there, this might also be an issue. I want to give also some examples of time frames so that people understand how more or less how, let's say, to structure their proposal. So you can have different phases. The preparatory phases, as mentioned, the most important is preparatory and implementation. Then what you see here on the slide, the implementation is broken down in other 3 phases. So phase 0 is preparatory actions, approximately, as I said, maybe 12 months. The open market consultation, preparing the entity, raising awareness, this kind of actions. And then once you have the awarded suppliers, there will be maybe 3, 4, 5 suppliers. You start with the solution design phase, which might be short. Then there is the prototype development of approximately, again, as an example, 7 months. You see the operational validation is a little bit longer, the phase 3 that we see here. So during this phase, they will check that they will validate these technical solutions in an operational environment. And at the end, we have some time that maybe 4 months maybe is not that enough, but usually for evaluation and conclusion. So just examples for you to understand more or less the structure. And then again, I want to go back to the discussion of the budget. As I said, some of this budget will be retained for the tender because it has to go down back to the industry. So the operators of the buyers group will say, okay, we obtain from EUSPA X amount, 60%, for example, I'm giving an example of this amount, will be in our ITT. How do we structure then the budget? You see here some examples. We believe more budget has to be in the phase 3 because it's usually more expensive. If you think about phase 1 is solution design, in the design part, you don't have a lot of expenses. So approximately 15 of this budget in phase one. This is again example that I give as indicative. Then maybe a little bit more on the prototype development. So remember that also the supplier is becoming less and less, but require a bit higher effort. And then the phase three, which possibly the majority of the budget will be, is the operation validation, because it requires also, being on the field, maybe, or being in a certain environment that the solution needs to be deployed. So maybe the costs are a bit more there. And okay, this is where you can find more details and read the whole description of the PCP topic. And you can also email us in the research at euspa.europa.eu. Remember that the deadline is the 2nd of March, so it's I would say a short time frame, but there is still time, particularly if the participants are, let's say, experienced and are aware of how to write proposals. And remember also that even if you are not, you still have the possibility to partner with entities that can help you in proposal writing, but also project implementation. So we would like to see participation from regions and cities. We're aware how difficult it is, but we also want that cities and regions will see that as a good opportunity for them to build systems that meets their solution, and they utilize EUSPA'S data. So with this, I finish my presentation.
Good morning. Many
Morning.
thanks, Vasilios, for this very illustrative and a good presentation. It's a very technical subject matter, and I like very much your clear explanations. Maybe one comment for all participants, and I wrote it in the chat. Vasilis mentioned in the list of domains critical infrastructures. And beside the Copernicus for Regions publication, you might find interesting examples in the follow-up to our webinar series. I copied you the link in the chat. I suggest now we have the possibility for an all open Q&A session. Please let me know in the chat if you have a question. If you have something very specific that concerns your proposal and you don't want to share with others, there is also the possibility, we had asked you to book beforehand breakout sessions. None of you had chosen this opportunity. Still, we can see if there is a need. Please let us know in the chat, and we will see how to arrange this. But maybe we can have now an open Q&A session, and we kindly ask you to let us know if you have questions in the chat.
I have to say, Roya, also that it is unfortunate we don't have with us Lieve Boss, who participated in the very first webinar. And she is much more knowledgeable on the tool itself, on the PCP tool. But I'll do my best to answer all the questions. If there is a question that I don't know, I can look for it, and I will follow up later.
Yes, thank you very much. And I think this instrument of the PCP goes beyond what we are used in usual Horizon Europe programs and projects. It goes a bit beyond, and it combines public policies, public administration activities, and bringing new research, bringing new services and products to the market.
Mm-hmm. And we have also, I will add some examples that Lieve added in her presentation, I remember, but I didn't present it just for, there are a couple of good projects like AI for cities, the PCP again action, which is AI-based solutions that accelerate cities' climate neutrality transition, as an example. And this can be also a good idea using space. And we had there procurers from Helsinki, Amsterdam, Paris, Copenhagen, Stavanger, and Tallinn. So, quite relevant also to our PCP.
Mm-hmm.
Also the fabulous PCP, which is about autonomous bus lines as part of real-life public transport network. And there the procurers again was Helsinki, Tallinn, Gestal, Porto, Helmond, and Lamia from Greece. The suppliers initially were 5, and then through the iterations we have 3 consortia remaining. These are also another good example.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any questions or comments you'd like to share with us?
It's also Monday morning, eh?
Yes, yes. Margarita, did you have an introduction round with the participants before you started, or you started right away?
No, we started right away because, yeah, we wouldn't have the time with.
Yes, understood. Understood. But now in the Q&A session, we have a bit time. Maybe what we could do is that we start a round table with the participants a bit. That could be maybe also interesting for Vasilis to get an overview. What is a bit the background of the participant and who looks into that instrument and from which angle? Maybe what would be nice if we make it tour de table, you briefly introduce yourself and you say from which angle, from which perspective do you look at the instrument? Why is this call maybe for you interesting? Can we maybe start with Mr. Kannstein from Hesse? Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I was allowed to introduce myself briefly in the beginning, but so I'm from the region of Hessen in Germany, and so we are a mostly publicly owned GmbH and actually implement some ESA activities, but also we are quite interested in, of course, all EUSPA activities, specifically when they address regions. And of course, we are working close or supporting Nereus wherever possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see now a question has arrived in the chat. Hugo, maybe you can introduce yourself and briefly say something about your organization, your perspective, and your question, please. We can't hear you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. And sorry for the background noise. I'm here sharing this room with my daughter, who is sick. I'm Hugo from Forum Virem Helsinki. We are the digital innovation agency of the city of Helsinki. And indeed, we have been the coordinators and developers of the AI for Cities and the Fabulous. I'm very pleased to see them as good practices and examples of how a PCP can be built. We are interested because indeed we think that there are a lot of potentials for scaling up our goals to become carbon neutral and also improve the overall functioning of the city by building or complementing existing data sources, sensors, and tools with satellite downstream applications. And so that's why we are taking a look at this and happy to hear or to see who is around the table and possibly discussing how to cooperate on this. And indeed, I put forward this question because I would be interested in understanding better how this topic and call can or is seen with regards to the incoming PCP call, which is much bigger. And of course, I understand that is more focused into the climate how do you call it? climate increasing cities resilience or resilience in general due to the climate change. Thank you. And again, sorry for the background noise.
No, there is no background noise. I wanted to, well, I cannot answer if I don't read in details. So it is already in the work program, this topic. Or is it already awarded because you protect CSA?
He put it in the chat.
Yes.
He makes reference.
I can give you the topic ID if you give me a second, but
yes.
CSA is a coordination and support action that is being created with the view of maybe
in the future
in the future,
okay,
yes, which and the PCP for the future is already out. Of course, it's not yet open because it's, I think the deadline is going to be April or May of 2024.
2024, okay. Well, what I can suspect, obviously, there will be a different angle with respect to the ultimate objectives. I mean, our objectives, despite building on and touching upon the same kind of actors, which are public actors, our goal is eventually to have the uptake of space technology. So I will have to read because it's also cluster 6, which possibly the objective is slightly different, but I understand that it also this kind of topic concentrates and focuses on public entities, customization, pre-authorization of prototypes and user services, and climate change adaptation mitigation. So I would say that the solutions and the description that I see can be a bit more extended here. This I would say is the difference. I see space mentioned as GEOS, which is the Global Earth Observation System of Systems. And I don't know if there are specific mentions to Galileo on Copernicus. So I see the difference because your question is at the end, the overlap. The difference is mostly on the technological components to be used. For us, the definite need is to use either Galileo only or Copernicus only or both kind of solutions. I mean, for us, this is a requirement in the case of Protect CSA, which will lead to the PCP. I don't think that's the case. And maybe Erwin, you would like to.
Yes, maybe I could come in. So I'm Erwin Goof from the European Commission, so working at the Research and Technical Agency. And indeed, I'm the project officer for the Protect CSA and will also be responsible for the call, which Hugo mentioned next year. So the idea of the call is indeed also to launch a PCP, more focused on climate services. So it's, I don't know whether you know about the eShape project, the EuroGeo, and they are, let's say, an R&D or innovation action where a lot of prototypes are being made to showcase what can be done, which solution can be made using Earth observation data, which can be in most cases it's Copernicus data, could also be Galileo, but in fact we are mostly looking at Copernicus. And of course, as well, commercial Earth observation data. And the idea is now to have this PCP to, as you explained, to really start from the buyers group and making sure that they, let's say, they define the demand and so on. And the Protect project is a CSA currently running, which is supposed to prepare this this buyers group. And so they're already doing this open market consultation to some extent. They are looking what is the potential buyers group, what the challenges we would need to address, and so on. So to answer the question of Hugo, there is no real link, of course, between this PCP, the topic of this webinar today, and the one that you highlighted for next year. But I can imagine that, let's say, in terms of the providers, there will be overlapping in terms of bias. We will see, to be seen.
Well, I have to be honest, Erwin, that also the CSA, in a certain extent, assist in the work that we are doing as well, because let's say you're building up the community with this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are no new questions in the chat, so we continue with our round. I see Roman. maybe you could take the floor and introduce yourself and explain a bit your perspective. Roman, do you hear me? Okay, then we move on to the next participant, Ana Lucia Jaramillo. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I have no questions for now. Thank you.
Yeah, but maybe you could introduce yourself and say something about your organization and why this call is interesting for you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Well, my name is Ana Lucia Jaramillo. I am part of the legal team of COPERNICUS Procurement Services. And at the moment, we are involved in several innovation procurement projects. We have experience in pre-commercial procurement. We are part of the EAFIP initiative on innovation procurement, and so we also support several PCP projects. At the moment, we're also part of the PROTECT project, which is looking for climate change services using actually Earth observation data. So this is an interesting PCP call for us. So that's a little bit of the background. So this is why we're interested in learning a little bit more. I think maybe I can start the video. Yeah.
I could also add on that this topic is also a bit more extended as regards the thematic. The examples that I mentioned, of course, include some, I would say, climate relevant themes and applications, but you also have like the critical infrastructure component there. Of course, waste management systems, examples from that I showed on safeguarding the communities with risk quantification and information systems, geohazards, and so on. Coastal protection and mobility as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. In the project, we are looking at 5 applications domains in the protected, so covering some of the areas you just mentioned. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This round could be also interesting amongst you. Feel free to interact amongst you, or if you want to get put in touch with one of the participants. I move on to Beatriz Gomez. Please take the floor, introduce yourself, and why is this call for you interesting?
Good morning. Nice to be here in this meeting with you all. I'm also part of the legal team at COPERNICUS Procurement Services. So yeah, the introduction that my colleague Ana Lucia made was perfect. And the intention is the same. So we have extensive experience in innovation procurement and PCP, and we usually participate in several EU-funded projects as a supporting organization and helping the procurers and the buyers to conduct this process, which is not always easy. So yeah, that was all from my side. Nice to be here.
Thank you. I move on to Iona Rosca. Could you please introduce yourself, your organization, and why is the call of interest for you?
Hi, I'm Ioana Rosca, and I'm working with EUROPEA'S Valley. We are an innovation cluster where we're supporting our members, which are mostly startups or SMEs, with networking, with funding. We are also working with Protect from the provider's side, mostly. And this call is interesting for us because, as Arvin mentioned, in Protect, we're targeting like Earth observation services. But through this call, we could target even the GNSS ones, and we want to see how this could be a fit for us and our members.
Thank you. Then I move on to Marek Czarczor.
Hello, nice to see you and participate in the event. My name is Marek Czarczor. I'm the representative of EUROPEAN. This is a startup company that was set up half a year ago in Poland. My aim is just to learn the The aim of a startup is just to connect touristic services with IT services. And we are also interested in the aerospace industry. So now we are just learning. And thus I'm very glad to participate in this event because I'm able to learn more and more. And maybe in the coming years, we'll try to participate deeper and cooperate deeper with NERUS. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marek. Do you have in your company concrete examples, best practices, where you use space-based services and products to the tourism sector?
No, because we are working on FLP, the minimum product. Now we will be finished with FLP in March, but now we are just thinking about another steps. That's why I'm here. We are just have some ideas, but this is first time I'm really in this sector, and I'm just trying to get some ideas. I understand how this environment works, who are the people, what are the organization, and it's very good for me to participate in it because now I'm opening my mind. So really, we are at the beginning. We are now just step by step learning how can we add some aerospace services, whether it's possible or not, what are the financing methods. So it's like we are not in a hurry.
Very good.
And just, Roya, maybe we can also assist a little bit in the ideation process of participants similarly to Marek, reminding that the PCP is one part, as you can see here, of our current call, and we have also other topics, particularly research and innovation topics, that might be relevant for participants also to consider in case they come particularly for industry, like the research and innovation action on the large-scale Copernicus data uptake with AI and HPC, or designing space-based downstream application with international partners, where we try to boost into the internationalization component on Copernicus.
Yeah, so for me, this information are very, very useful. I said we are not in a hurry. We just want to learn. As you said, now I'm learning about more programs, and maybe sooner or later we'll take advantage of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marek. Maybe also we will have this week a webinar on space for sustainable tourism. Maybe that could be also interesting. We will be glad to welcome you. Okay, great.
Thank you.
I move on to Maria Casanovas. Please take the floor and introduce yourself.
Hello, thank you. I'm coming from the Institute of Space Studies of Catalonia, so in Barcelona, and what we do is foster our strategy on the new space sector and try to collaborate with all the ecosystem, and of course we have a network of infrastructures that also take part of this strategy here, and that's a bit because they invite me here, so I'm not directly responsible of this of promoting this strategy, but of course it's just a bit the introduction of what we do and why this call is important for us and why we want to know more about that. Maybe we don't have the time to participate in this call, I'm not sure, but of course, being always updated.
And do you have experiences with developing a space-based service or product that was then integrated in workflows of public administrations? Do you have public users that work?
Yes. Yes, we participate in many other projects, and we do transfer and technology transfer activities. And so what we also try to promote is the onboard services, and we are proving these services of products developed by research groups here. I think that I'm answering your question.
Yes, it is always very interesting for us to understand better and to learn more about your experiences as service provider, as researchers with the public sector, as user of space-based services and products and space-based applications. So thank you very much. I move on to Marian. Marian, can you hear me? No? Okay, then I move on to Novi.
Hi everybody, I'm Novi. I'm based in academia at the INSEAD's Humanitarian Research Group in France, together with WHO Germany. My topic is exactly humanitarian and health logistics. And as part of my last set of current topics, I'm interested in this in today's webinar and generally about space because it delves in how space can aid healthcare access, humanitarian issues. So for this, I've also pursued the Copernicus program. So I'm interested from a research point of view, and specifically today, PCP was also interesting from a supply chain point of view. Thank you.
Many thanks. Do you have any experiences with working with the public sector?
Oh, we have done a couple of projects with WFP at INSEAD, but we haven't really used space technology yet for that. It was about amphibious vehicles, and since doing the Copernicus program, I've introduced this into our group, that how we can actually leverage space technology, Earth observation for this purpose of infrastructure management. So it's work in progress. We have worked with public sector, but not directly for space yet.
Okay, many thanks. I move on to Paco Gomez Molinero.
Hello, good morning. My name is Paco Gomez Molinero. I am representing a private non-profit organization in Valencia, in Spain, that is called EUSPA'S Aero. It's an association of all the space companies in the region of Valencia who want to promote the development of the space market there. Some of the companies are very much involved in AI for Earth observation, and the association is also consulting with the public authorities in Valencia. I am also involved in that activity, and they are very much interested in any source of funding that could be used for developing even a mission for Earth observation, for the emergency services, in particular fire detection and fire management, forest fire management in general. So the interest would be just to contact other regions that would be interested or have common goals, and maybe being able just to bid to any ITT like this PCP or anything else, just to start developing the particular points which are relevant to the region, to Valencia, and that, as I said, is emergency firefighting, and there could be also some agricultural services sort of thing, because it's a region with a lot of agriculture.
And specifically a lot of rice.
That's correct.
and when you burn it, there is a specific situation there, I remember.
That's correct.
Paco, what is your relation? You are like a multiplier. You are a representative of an association, and your core target group, your clients, are the SME and startups and companies.
That's correct. There are SMEs and startups from the space sector. One of the companies is developing micro launchers in the region of Valencia, but there are also, as I said, companies developing AI for agriculture, AI for emergencies, also, for example, spills in the sea or methane detection. And they want just to enlarge their technology just for things like fire detection, fire prevention, and in general, fire management after the fire has taken place. So they are very much working in that area. There are other companies in other areas, for example, for avionics on board the spacecrafts, in real-time systems and things like that. And the university is also involved there. Now the association is growing. There are some technology institutes that are providing innovation in these areas. So there is a lot of, I would say, noise now in the region just to increase the market in general.
What is your relationship with the region, with the regional administration, with the different departments of the regional administration in Valencia?
Yeah, we have a close relationship with the Economic Affairs Department, and they are striving to develop a local strategic plan to increase all the aerospace activities. So we consult to them, and we are defining with them. At the moment, we are using them as a target customer, and we are having customer interviews with them, with the emergency people this week, also with the firefighting people, with different departments to see what their needs are and how the space technology could contribute to improve their needs, to address their needs.
Okay, thank you very much, Paco. Thanks for joining. I move on. We had Roman. Last time he did not react. Roman, do you hear us? Do you like to take the floor? No? Okay, dann Vitali Stolyarchuk. Vitali, do you hear us? Okay, okay. So we come now, I think, to the end of our morning session. Last chance for question. Please let us know in the chat. Last chance for comments. Vasilis, maybe you take the floor to say some last points before closing.
Yes, I would like to thank you very much for organizing this. Apart from last words, I would put on the chat our research email. So I understand that sometimes participants don't like to express, their questions and maybe their interest in front of other people. So we're very keen to also receive by email if there are specific questions on our topic, of the specific PCP topic, but also if there are any other questions with respect to other topics that we have. It's still a bit less than a month to the deadline, so the time is now to participants to show interest, be part of consortia. Particularly, it is, I believe, the crucial point, let's say now, because the clock runs, and I hope we will have interest from the part also for European regions, because they are public actors, which I believe they are very, very important in the uptake of space technologies, and building something for them that is quite tangible and can be used is as my previous slide showed, win-win situation. So I would like to thank both you, Roya, and you, Margarita, and the participants. Nothing else from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vasily. Margarita, maybe you can announce our next webinars, which we will be glad to welcome you again.
Yes, so we have the next webinar on the 8th of February. It's Space for Sustainable Tourism, and there we have the ESA representative that can explain and discuss with you all related questions on how you can apply to this call. We will have also best practices from other organizations shared with us, and then we have on the 23rd of February the webinar on education training in the space sector and capacity building skills. So feel free to register and stay tuned for our next webinars to be announced in the next days as well.
Many thanks. So I wish all participants a good day. Thanks for joining today. If you work on a proposal and you plan to bid into the PCP call, we wish you good luck with your proposal. We are a platform providing support, networking, and ideas to our members to be better prepared to bid into EU programs and funding. And we will be very glad to see more projects and more space applications growing in Europe. With this, have a good day, and thank you so much for joining. And
thank you very much.
Many thanks, Vasilius, for a really good and clear presentation.
Thank you. Yeah. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.